link, right? To the link. Where the link? And I do anything in this way. Hi, good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Minority Report. I am Arlen David, your host, and we are here back again in our usual manner and fashion to bring the facts, to present as much information as possible to the general public as we assess the issues, as we examine the different things that have been happening in the public domain in Tobago. And this evening is none other, not a different evening. We continue. Last week we had some interesting discussion. Last week we had some interesting conversations. And so we're going to continue in that vein this evening as we examine, as we look, as we assess what we've been seeing taking place in Tobago. This evening, it's indeed a pleasure for me to come back into your homes, your living rooms, into your family gatherings, into your spaces. And I must say that we do not take this opportunity lightly. We know that you could be doing anything right now. You could be anywhere right now, but yet still you choose to be with us on the Minority Report. And so we want to say thank you for that. I want to encourage those of you who are still trying to log on, those of you who are still trying to settle in at home or on your way home. Now is the time to really tap in. You can view us on the Tobago Updates website. You can check us out on the Tobago Updates YouTube page, or you can log on to the Tobago Updates Facebook page, where you can also comment and you can observe the proceedings while we have open discussions. For those of you who are interested in WhatsApping or messaging us, you can do so on 284-6597. That's 284-6597. And you can also call us on 356-8833. For those who are subscribed to the Amplia network, you can only turn your television to channel number 102. Yes, that's channel number 102. And you can sit in the comfort of your home and view us on the cable network. So folks, this evening we're going to continue along a very interesting vein, interesting conversation. Quite a lot has happened. We would have signaled to you certain things and certain developments in our last program last Tuesday, and we would have seen not just that they came to pass, but we would have seen quite a lot more than we actually expected and probably catered to, and we're going to look a bit at that this evening. But before going into this evening's show, I want to take the opportunity to first of all say congratulations to the Charlottesville Heritage Group, the Charlottesville Heritage Performers, who, as expected, turned out a magnificent day yesterday, treating visitors and locals alike to stunning performances, musical arrangements, dances, skits in the form of plays and so on. And even though there was a bit of inclement weather, I think it was even more than just inclement weather. The showers actually came down, but it did not deter the heritage performers from delivering as per usual in their manner of class and precision. So I want to say shout out and congratulations to the Charlottesville Heritage performers, Charlottesville Heritage Group, And I know that the president of the group was in the Tobago Update studio, I think, last week, promoting the Monday Festival. And in the midst of a heritage season where there are so many mixed emotions, so many mixed reviews, starting with the opening night last Friday, it was a breath of fresh air to see Charlottesville actually deliver quite professionally, and the excitement went all the way into the night. And I know many persons would have left the community saying finally they have now begun to feel the heritage fever and the heritage experience. So congratulations going out there to Charlottesville. And as we continue, we know that we are still in the heritage season, so we look forward to the Mariah wedding on Saturday. And I know Black Rock is also coming along strong, based on a conversation I had earlier today. And Black Rock, I believe, is on Monday. So quite a lot happening, and it's this time. I want to encourage persons as well, vendors, entrepreneurs, to take the opportunity to really make the most of it. Persons are coming out, and it's actually an open forum where you can earn some extra cash and so on, and develop your skill, develop your trade, expand it, do a bit of networking and so on. So we should be able to make use of these types of environments as we continue to endeavor to build each other up. Let me say this evening, one time, I want to go to my guests in studio. I have to stop saying guests because they're actually fixtures on the show now. They're the fixtures. I want to begin with my immediate right. With me this evening, Minority Councillor, Mrs. Petal, Daniel Benoit, all ready and dolled up, ready to hit the ground running. Welcome this week.
Good evening, Senator Lawrence, and good evening to all of you listening, viewing. We thank you again for tuning in to the Minority Report, and we thank you for your continued support and prayers. And as Marilyn would say, we thank you for making us the #1 show on Tobago.
Exactly.
Stay locked on.
Yes. I love how that sounded. and again, joining us this evening and being with us continually is now the gentleman I call my co-host, Senator Lawrence Hislop.
Good evening, Maryland. Good evening, Tobago. It is truly a privilege. Good evening, Madam Councillor.
Hello.
It's truly a privilege to be here with all of you, Trinidad and Tobago, by extension.
Thank you very much, sir. Who, in his absence, I want to take the opportunity to say a hearty good evening to the Minority Leader, Assemblyman Kelvin Morris. We know he's always logged on, being a part of the program, whether in person or online, and we really want to give him a hearty shout out this evening, doing quite a lot, hard worker, and always looking for ways in which he can continue fulfilling the mandate that has been given to him in terms of the responsibility as Minority Leader. Have a good evening, son, and as you view, feel free to chime in or to call in, even if it's possible. So, folks, I want to start off on a pretty light note because I would have introduced the conversation, really, the heritage. I don't know if you all would have had an opportunity to experience or attend any event yet in the Heritage Festival or the Heritage Season.
No, I haven't gone to any as yet. I would have reviewed in parts the happenings at the opening night with the Queen Show and the Calypso competition, as well as Charlottesville. So I would have viewed and I would have heard comments about the both shows.
Okay.
And same, unfortunately, I have been unable to attend any. I really wanted to attend Charlottesville, but I had some prior engagements that got in the way of that. But I know Charlottesville always puts on a tremendous production. So it was no surprise that we heard good reviews coming out of Charlottesville. Charlottesville is always top of the pile, you know. Always top of the pile. So just my prior engagements didn't allow me to make the journey up to Charlottesville.
Okay, but it was indeed an experience, and as you say, as you indicated, the Charlottesville normally puts on quite a bit of performances and quite a professional delivery, and yesterday was nothing short of that, you know, and even with the weather, because when I checked the forecast, I did in fact see that the rain was predicted, and it came down in all its glory. At one point in time, I actually felt as if they would have had to cut short the day because the entire road was just water.
Wow.
But what was amazing is that apart from the actual performers, the Charlottesville heritage performers, who were definitely not daunted by the downpour, but the people that turned up, they just decided after a while, well, it's rain. And everybody was just being soaked in the rain.
That street parade does normally be a highlight for persons.
It definitely was.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I started the show this evening by really saying congratulations. A lot of odds they fought against in terms of the preparations and everything and being able to get to the day. But I must say that they delivered. And from their delivery, you would think that everything was just perfect, you know. So really hats off to the team up there at Charlottesville and continue to really build the product. I don't think I've seen any other depiction of the traditions and so on that are as precise and as real as you get.
Sometimes when we talk about traditions, we talk about things that used to happen in the past. But in a lot of regards, some of these things still occur.
Yes.
So it's just...
We have some good shows. I will know. Good. Pembroke with the Salaka Feast.
Correct.
I think in terms of is the passion, the pride, the love for the culture and the art form that in spite of all the odds, because I have also seen the comments rolling in spite of the odds, because of that passion and that love, persons will go over and beyond the call to do what is necessary to ensure that there is a successful production.
And that definitely is admirable. So who knows, you don't know what next year might bring, but something that I would say off the cuff, that and this is just a recommendation thrown out there, that we would really like to see things like this take place year round. You know, it's good to see it at the heritage season, but it really gives an opportunity for the community to really build a product around something that you already have a demand for. You know, so it's definitely going to be good to see if we can package this particular event, probably on a smaller scale, once or twice a quarter, and market it primarily for domestic tourism, and see, because Charlottesville is a place where sometimes on a Sunday, if you go there, you wonder what is happening. If you, Lawrence, you know that you just drive into the community and there's a lot of people down by the jetty and music play. And
the jetty is the central. That beachfront has always been Charlottesville's focus of attention.
You're asking yourself if they're having an event or, you know, if they have a party or something.
That's the community spirit.
Yes.
That is Charlottesville. That is the vibe that you get from that village life. That everybody knows everybody related to everybody. and even sometimes, even if you're not a resident of Charlottesville, just rolling into Charlottesville on a given day when you have that kind of gathering, you find yourself engrossed in the conversation and engrossed in what is village life in Charlottesville. So that's just the beauty of
village life.
Village
life.
And that's the thing. Each community in Tobago has its own
dynamic.
Its own unique dynamic. Some are just better at it than others.
Yes.
but each community, one of the things that kind of saddens me as well is that village life is now morphing into a block life.
Yeah.
In some of the other communities.
Yeah.
So instead of the togetherness that you would have known, what you have is a lot of blocks coming into effect and a lot of
substance abuse.
Yeah, substance abuse taking place, a lot of idling. But that is the uniqueness of the Tobago community, and that's our Tobago-ness, where after a hard day of work or even a hard week of work, you could find yourself in a kind of central place in most communities, and just hang for a little bit.
Yeah.
Charlottesville just had the added bonus of having a beachfront to do that, of having a picturesque backdrop.
I remember
because you go to Palativier or Castara.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of
vibe.
Yeah.
I remember one of my first experiences in going to Charlottesville after moving permanently to Tobago. That would have been about 13 or 14 years ago. I remember going there like mid-morning just to visit the community. I would have gone before, but just drive through and leave. And I went up, to say, well, my two brothers were actually here with me.
It's so just to visit the community?
Yeah, just to visit. Just to pass through. Okay. I had no other intention.
I'm just asking a question.
At the time.
I'm just asking a question.
I find that you went in a direction there that seemed very suggestive.
I just asked the question. If
just
it was
to
just
visit.
To pass through and
yeah, just to pass through. And so my two brothers were with me and I said, well, let me just pass through, morning time. And we left there midnight. Didn't really know much people, but when you got there and we came out and started just moving around and interacting, the next thing was roast fish, then breadfruit to start roasting, and then the bottles started coming out and everybody started coming around and sit down and the stories started, and by the time you blink, it was evening, and then they decided to take a dip because they had to do something to kind of shake off the intoxication that they were experiencing. And I mean, we left there midnight after just passing through the morning, and that real community vibe and that community spirit, even that alone is a tourism product. Yeah. and when you look in the community now, even through Charlottesville, you still see tourists who you just see a family walking, mother, father, and children. Yeah. They staying by somebody downstairs. You always see that, so it speaks volumes of the community spirit. But Senator Islap, you touched on something there that I think is really critical and is something we need to really pay attention. That whole block vibes. And it's something that we have to pay attention to because the young men, not just in Charlottesville, but in all those communities, Palatuvier, Castara, Lansumi, there are a lot of young men in the communities. And a lot of the times when you pass through, you just see them in groups of 5, 10 and smoking. And, it's something that definitely needs to be addressed.
Because it's not unique. It's not unique to the eastern side of the island. It's stretched throughout every community, every community.
We've seen some footage here of the trek.
And I'm seeing some familiar faces.
We just saw Father Tankai, most present. I think here we see him assisting, very, very much involved, posing there for the cameraman, but very, very much involved. I think he would have prayed for the start and so on. I blessed it and stuff yesterday. But here we see the tambu bamboo and the rhythm section and everybody that comes along with it. Folks really, really enjoyed themselves yesterday. And thanks to Tobago Updates, who provided quite a bit of footage. You could see the rain coming down. Tobago Updates provided quite a bit of professional footage, I must say. The pictures and everything were crystal clear. People really enjoying themselves, dancing the cuckoo. Yeah. So definitely yesterday, as they say, was a vibe. Yeah, it was really a vibe. So congratulations once again to the Charlottesville Heritage Folk Performers on the delivery of a very, very successful festival yesterday and street parade. And we continue to look forward to much, much more from you guys as you continue to improve your product. So folks, we are back in studio and let's start to deal with some of the business of Tobago and some of the business of the Minority Report. So we would have, after our last show, at our last show, we would have discussed and we would have indicated to Tobago that there was going to be a special sit-in that was called on the Wednesday, last Wednesday, where we would have anticipated, as it were, what the sit-in would have been about and the discussion. However, I don't know, before we actually go to one of the clips, Minority Councillor, you were in the house on the day. You would have sat through the ordeal, and I call it the ordeal for obvious reasons. Tell us the experience, how you felt Wednesday. Just put it in a nutshell for us.
Wednesday was a day in history, not in a good way. And just as you said, Marilyn, I would have received a number of calls, persons asking, Petal, how you and the minority leader could sit down in the house and listen to that kind of thing happening. And it is our duty and it's God's grace that continue to keep us in the house, and only His grace. But what happened on that special sit-in, I think for all right-thinking people, all right-thinking Tobagonians, is a cause for concern, a cause for deep concern, and it was quite troubling because the house is on recess, and this is in keeping with the standing orders. And while the house is on recess, yes, you could recall the members, but it must be for something that is urgent and extraordinary, that requires some emergency to call the house while the house is on recess. So we would have gotten the notice less than 24 hours before the convening of the special sit-in, and we would have attended. Like every other Tobagonian, we wondered what was the urgent and extraordinary issues that would have arisen that would cause the house to be reconvened in a recess. And I think up to this time, most Tobagonians did not see the urgency why the house had to be reconvened. And I am troubled. I am deeply troubled because, to me, what would have transpired cuts at the grain of our democracy. And we would have heard the Chief Secretary speak to the fact that he would have attempted to do something similar to what the then opposition leader, now Prime Minister, would have done in relation to Emailgate. But on the contrary, what happened with Emailgate was a substantive motion brought by the then opposition leader. What happened at the special sit-in was a statement read out, and the statement was not read verbatim, as is required. The statement should have been approved by the presiding officer and all its contents. And if we look to the statement, we saw that the Prime Minister, we saw the Police Commissioner and the TTPS, we saw members of the judiciary being brought into disrepute. And according to the standing order, that is out of order, except the conduct of these persons are questioned under a substantive motion. So the standing order was suspended to allow for the Chief Secretary to present his statement in its entirety, because generally a statement should be read for about 10 minutes. So, and we recognize that the statement by the Chief Secretary went on for more than 10 minutes, so the standing order would have been suspended to allow for that to occur. In like manner, when the minority leader attempted to suspend the standing order to allow for more than one question to be asked from members of the opposition parties, that request was denied. And again, it speaks to an attack on the democracy. So you brought a statement, it was not a substantive motion. So the minority did not get an opportunity to speak, to contribute to the debate, to have its voice heard. Outside of that, you suspended the standing orders for your own purpose, but you did not allow the same courtesy for the minority leader to ask more than one question. And I think the request of the minority leader was quite, I don't think it was beyond unreasonable, because he asked for a minimum of 3 questions. And the questions should be no longer than 15 seconds. So it was not an unreasonable request to have, and that request was not granted. So there's a lot more to be said as we continue the conversation, but what we experienced was quite troubling and alarming, and is a cause for concern for all Tobagonians.
Wow. Senator Estep, I knew you would have viewed as well. You want to chime in how you felt looking on at a plethora of breaches. I did take note the minority leader on several occasions sought to bring the House into alignment.
To rise on a point of
a standing order. And every single time was just bypassed or shut down. And this is indeed troubling.
Yeah. I was disappointed. I was shocked. I would use the other adjectives that were used by another politician. But I was really disappointed. I was at one point in time I was a bit angry. That I shouldn't say angry, I was annoyed. That this is what the House had come to. As a parliamentarian, we've seen some really low down behaviors in even in our national parliament. But I think the flouting of the standing orders and even the language that was being used at points in time was really uncalled for, was unnecessary. It came across as if this is someone attempting to bust a mark to get a one-up on somebody else. It was terrible. It was degrading. It was disrespectful. And there's so much other negatives that you can put towards it. And we ought to always remember, I was in conversation with someone who said to me that one of the downsides of what is going on is that the Chief Secretary has had an opportunity when he became Chief Secretary to create this atmosphere that allowed any child to believe attaining the position of Chief Secretary is possible. And doing a great job is possible. And so what happened is that you had a lot of young people that gravitated to the Chief Secretary and the party. And to come now and hear this sort of, or to see this sort of behavior taking place in the House, and behavior by the Chief Secretary it doesn't set the right example. It really doesn't. And if we're talking about new politics, then it should be new politics across the board. And if we feel that a particular politicians speak a particular way and it's not right, then if we are promoting a new politics, then how we speak should be different.
On that note, Senator, I want to ask the director to cue up the clip there, the first clip that we're going to actually look at, because I'm glad you went in that direction, because it's important for persons to understand what we're talking about. And Minority Councillor, you would have alluded to the general atmosphere of the sitting and the what would seem to be the unfair treatment. But it progressively got worse. And up till this point where we saw a blatant outburst from someone who holds the highest office in Tobago. And as you rightfully said, Senator, what are we looking at? What's taking place? Director, could you run that clip for us, please?
Madam Presiding Officer, do I really need to come to this house to tell the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and some ignorant magistrate that the member for Belgarden Glamorgan is not hired by the THA? Madam Presiding Officer, it seems like we have many presiding officers today. Man, shut the stick. Honorable members, and I say honorable because that is what you are. Honorable Chief Secretary, I would ask you to retract your statement and apologize to your fellow members of this House for the statement that you just made. Sure. This is, the chamber is called an August chamber for a reason.
Yeah. You see, yeah, and you see,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
listen,
madness.
This is I couldn't believe what I heard.
I don't think anybody in the chamber
this is atrocious
what they heard, because you sat there and you heard the chief secretary, the head of the island government of Tobago, speaking those words, telling another fellow member to hush your whatever mouth. And it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful, it's unparliamentary language, it's disappointing. Even if you are in a heated debate with another member, it doesn't require you to speak to another member
in that manner.
And again, it's another way in which this administration continues to bring the chamber and the assembly into odium and disrepute. What would warrant you calling another member or saying such words to another member, in spite of how you feel? in spite of your likes or your dislikes, in spite of whether or not we are on the same side of the political divide. Whatever happened to professionalism? I remember we said it even when the Chief Secretary said what he said to the Prime Minister to keep out a Tobago business. It's the same kind of language. And as Senator Lawrence would have indicated before, we have young people looking on. What kind of example are we setting to young persons? Persons not even aspiring to politicians, but as politicians, as leaders in the land. What kind of example are we setting for our young people, for our children?
This is disturbing. Senator Islap, I know you're ready to weigh in on this.
Am I? The reason I said that, the population of Trinidad and Tobago heard it, and I don't think anybody is comfortable, or anybody could be comfortable with that kind of behavior, with those kind of utterances, because whether it be in the chamber, out on the public street, at home, at school, for you to tell somebody hush your stink mouth is disrespectful, no matter where it is said. No matter where it is said. And for it to be said by the highest office holder to another colleague says a lot about the individual. Says a lot about who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Now, let's be fair as human beings. Sometimes things slip out. Sometimes we say things that we shouldn't say.
That is more than a slip.
But that was a deliberate. Somebody got under my skin.
Yeah.
And I have no control for my mouth. I'll just say what I feel. But however I think it's swing.
Yeah. And that also occurs when we don't stick with the issue. And it is something that this current administration does. When you raise an issue that in their mind calls what they are doing into question, instead of looking and attending to what the issue or addressing what the issue is, the modus operandi is to hurl personal attacks.
Yeah.
It's to attack you personally rather than dealing with the issue. And that continues to be demonstrated, and we see it highlighted in the sitting, where there was chorus talk, and in attempt to respond to the chorus talk, you decide to tell the man, hush your stink mouth. Yes, I haven't even heard that kind of cuss. Like in a long time. And as another media practitioner said, with all the things now that you have to wash your mouth, Listerine and stuff, like hush your stink mouth is really a curse.
It shows a lack of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
That's what it shows. Because if you get to the point where someone says something and I don't know what the other colleague said, but for you to get to the point...
So upset.
No, but the uproar came when he started speaking about the magistrate.
About the magistrate, correct.
Yes,
correct.
Because again, what he said is out of order
and
is not...
You call the magistrate...
Yeah, you call the magistrate...
Ignorant magistrate.
Into question. And you ought not to do that based on the standing order.
If you the judiciary is not supposed to be brought into a debate.
The president, members of parliament, members of the assembly, members of the judiciary. Their conduct should not be called into question unless on a substantive motion. A motion was not brought to deal with the conduct of any of the individuals that the Chief Secretary spoke about and attempted to malign.
One of the most pressing questions that keeps coming out of this, and every time we see a situation occur involving the Chief Secretary...
Before you continue, what again is quite troubling and concerning, because in the House, when members opposite attempted to raise concern about the Chief Secretary speaking that way about a magistrate, that erupted and that prompted the Chief Secretary to say what he said. Instead of, you know, thinking, doing some introspection. I wonder if I should pull back, or I wonder if, you know, what they're saying. But he resorted to cussing. He resorted to cussing another member in the house. Instead of considering what was really being said. And it was not an attack on the chief secretary, but was really an uproar in the words that you were saying and the words that were coming out of your mouth. Because this ignorant magistrate.
Because the uproar is to protect the house.
Correct.
Because you are bringing the house into odium and disrepute by calling a magistrate ignorant. And not only and ignorant in the context
of the performance of their duty.
So you're saying this ignorant magistrate don't know what he writes, don't know what he approving as a warrant. And so you're calling the magistrate ignorant. The house, rightfully so,
began to
object to that. And sought to bring a substantive standing order as to why that should not be allowed. And your response to that was an insult. And so that's what I said, that speaks to lack of emotional intelligence, lack of wisdom.
That is to cost another member in the house.
Remember as well, this is the same chief secretary that in a sitting made a statement about the clerk. And this one don't even know what she's doing. In the sitting, in the house.
Personal attacks.
Personal attacks. And there continues to be this trend. And what is even more concerning to me about this whole scenario is that the other members of the administration cheer this on, you know. They tap the desk and for this type of behavior. So it says that in their minds.
That is okay.
It's okay. It shows the total lack of understanding of how the house operates and how the house is supposed to work.
No, it shows a total lack of unprofessionalism.
That's right. It shows a lack of basic manners.
Yes.
that is what it shows.
Listen, I don't have to like you to be professional. I don't have to like you to do what is required. I don't have to like you to be polite. And to be mannerly. And again, as Tobagonians, we pride ourselves as persons being of good manners.
And
when you walk in a room, you tell your children
good morning.
To tell the other people there good morning. You were raised that way.
So what we're seeing here is an eroding of the very fiber of what Tobago was built upon and known for. And I would have said this in previous shows that this is what I've always known Tobago to be from since as a child. Coming here, being in Tobago as a child. These were things that he would be corrected on the street.
Respect for your elders.
Respect for elders.
No, but the thing about it is
respect for those in authority.
Yeah, but I have it queued up and Senator, I want the director to pull up this particular piece of document. I don't know how many of us remember this, and Petal, you and I were actually having a conversation about this last week. This is the National Pledge of Trinidad and Tobago, and I had queued this up because I want us to go back to a place where we begin to understand not politics or party, but understand our national responsibility and our obligation. And for those who may not remember it, and I'm certain all of us said it, I solemnly pledge to dedicate my life to the service of my God and my country. I will honor my parents, my teachers, my leaders, and my elders, and those in authority. I will be clean and honest in all my thoughts, my words, and my deeds. I will strive in everything I do to work together with my fellow men of every creed and race for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of my country. Senator, you remember that?
You used to say it.
Yes, you had to say it.
Every single day. We had to say this in primary school. Every single day. And it brought a consciousness of what our obligation was to society and to any space that we find ourselves in. Here we see the persons who leading Tobago or profess to be leading Tobago. In what direction is questionable. But the persons leading Tobago have thus far broken every line, every single line of the national pledge. And my thing is, and my question is, has the chief secretary lost all credibility to lead the Island Council, to lead the executive, to lead Tobago? Has he lost all credibility? We've seen from AudioGate go into press conference in a dark room where all that was done was attack. People again, personal attacks. And then we saw another part came out and the chief secretary again tried to explain, and then we saw an issue of the chief secretary being put to court by one of the young ladies who is alleged that she's part of the propaganda machine. And when the chief secretary came to the public, he still to date has not said what it is was the issue. Why is it that he went to court? What he did in fact say is that he settled the matter out of court through his lawyers and he paid her the money. And I don't know how you could sit in this office in Tobago and think that the population who put you there don't have a right to know what is it that the person who holds the highest office in the land is being challenged in court for. And why are you paying off a young lady out of court settlement and not saying anything to the public? And we've seen it move from that and going into sit-ins, flagrant attacks on the Prime Minister. And there's this whole air of trying to create a war between Trinidad and Tobago and riling up and inciting persons. Is this what Tobago wants in a leader?
But is this what Tobago voted for?
Is this what Tobago voted for?
On the campaign trail, we had a whole bag of promises. Everything that they perceived was done wrong in the past, they promised to fix. They promised greater accountability. They promised transparency. They promised good governance. They promised deeper democracy. And we are seeing that nothing that they have promised. Don't forget ex gratia.
Oh.
Nothing they
Tobago,
have
you all
promised.
remember ex gratia? I think people have given up
How many times was it said, even after the initial promise, that it will come?
A date was set.
Several dates. Now you recognize it wasn't even mentioned in the budget. Not a comment, not a word, nothing was said about it. None of the promises. And it's a level of mistrust that is seeping in. And I think mistrust across all sectors.
Yeah.
Mistrust against we, the employees of the assembly. Mistrust contractors, mistrust private sector, mistrust financial institutions, public mistrust generally. Because what is said and what is done are two different things. They are at variance. So how can we take your word?
Exactly.
And the question continue to arise. What was the real reason, or what was the real motive for having the special sitting? What was the motive?
Bust a mark.
Bust a mark. What was the reason for busting the mark? Remember, it all stemmed from this audio gate. This audio gate that was leaked into the public domain, that two voices were heard that resembles familiar voices to us, that being of two high-ranking THA officials.
Yeah.
And what they were doing, based on the audio tape, was conspiring to use public funds, resources, financial resources of the THA to hire or engage persons to spread propaganda. So we heard the two voices that were familiar to us, and that came into the public domain. And instead of taking accountability and responsibility, and that audio recording would have caused not only the TTPS, but also the Integrity Commission, two agencies, independent agencies in this nation, to launch separate investigations. Yes? And instead of taking accountability, instead of taking responsibility for your actions, what you decide to do is, at every platform given to you, or you create the platform to malign and attack persons. So. Nobody sent you there to conspire to do what you're doing.
Exactly.
So you want to blame the political leader, Tobago Council, you want to blame the Prime Minister, you want to blame the TTPS, but these are your actions. If there was nothing to record, there will be nothing in the public domain with your voices.
Exactly. And
what? Is it that the Prime Minister and the political leader of the Tobago Council set the agenda for your meeting?
For the meeting.
And you did not even remember the meeting that you had it. So is it that you are having these conversations all the time in so many spaces? So clearly you're having it at Executive Council because you said it would have been the Executive Council. It was the Executive Council. And at the time you blamed your former political leader. Now with this person, this whistleblower, coming to the light, alleged whistleblower, it was no longer an Executive Council meeting. So you would have claimed cover because at the time it was an Executive Council. So because it's no longer Executive Council meeting and some other meeting of a political executive, you decide now that you want to blame Tom, Dick and Harry, the TTPS. But nobody sat there, nobody that you are attempting to malign and bring into disrepute cause you to say the things that you have said. And that is what have you in the hot water, you and the members of your executive in the hot water right now. An investigation has launched by the TTPS and the Integrity Commission. Allow the investigation to come to its conclusion. If you don't have questions to answer, then the investigation, you will be exonerated.
Exactly.
So I don't understand what is the issue.
And Petal, you're saying it so right, because this is what we have to remember in Tobago. The issue here is not who come and who was recorded and who the Chief Secretary showed Tobago and this is a plot against. That is not the issue. You know? The issue here is that you all conspired, and I'm saying it that way, because you all were caught red-handed.
Yes, there's evidence.
Who recorded it.
And it took you, and don't forget, it took you 24 days
to come to the public in a dark room with the rest of the executive around you that you already implicate.
Yes.
To say that you were strategizing.
That is the point. That is what is, nothing else is up for discussion here, you know. What is what is the focus, and we need to remember this in Tobago. The Chief Secretary, and I'm saying it, the Chief Secretary and the Secretary of Education were prominent voices in a meeting and a discussion where you heard other voices
having a conversation
about
using
state funds
to reward
propaganda. People to spread propaganda. And let me dispel immediately this nonsense that the Chief Secretary keeps trying to say that, well, we discuss it, but clearly we didn't implement it. It is clear in the recording the Chief Secretary said, we already hire X amount. So then we need...
And names were called.
And names being called.
And...
But at the end, but you know, for me, the critical thing was, if you are innocent,
you will be proven innocent.
The investigation
process
to take its course.
Yeah.
If you had to come out and make a statement, come out and make this statement saying that, and there was no need for you to call the House to a special sitting for that to take place. Come out, host a press conference, said that there is an ongoing investigation taking place. The police officers searched my official residence, the official residence of the Chief Secretary, along with the private residence of other assemblymen and secretaries. we vehemently deny all of these things that have been pointed at us, but we allow the investigation to take its course to its fullest, where we will be exonerated.
Yeah.
To me, you would have gained a lot more respect if you said that.
Yes.
Than we say that if it is he believes.
Well, I only go based on.
It's only if he believes
but then you come out in all out frontal attack on any and everybody who you feel is responsible for the position that you are in, when you are the person
who put yourself right there.
But Senator, there's a deeper intention there. When the Chief Secretary came out and sought to discredit the Commissioner of Police, what the intention then is to say to his followers and his minions that, hey, is a plot and the police involved. So it means now
you're seeking to tarnish the
what is the real motive? Again, what is the real motive that you use parliamentary privilege to come and bring these high office holders in our nation into dispute? What is the real motive?
So in the minds of his sycophant followers, those who don't reason at all,
it's a tainted investigation. So anything coming out of
investigation presents findings.
It's you see, it's already what you've already done. You've created an expectation.
Yes.
That anything coming out of the investigation is tainted.
Yes. And outside of that, the Prime Minister would have also, the Police Commissioner, even the attorney, Mr. Gilbert, S.C. Gilbert, as well as the political leader, Tobago Council, would have come out immediately and vehemently denied all the claims that were made by the Chief Secretary. Yes, and they didn't wait 24 days to come to Immediately it was denied. And I heard the Chief Secretary on Monday on a program.
Yes.
And he was indicating that he does not know how the Prime Minister knew that the whistleblower was a witness, was a state witness. But I don't understand that comment by the Chief Secretary, because it is the Chief Secretary's recording that he brought into the House that indicated to all of Trinidad and Tobago and the world that the man is a witness.
Yes.
He said it. And the Chief Secretary, not only in the muffled recording, but the Chief Secretary also repeated it via his script.
Yes.
Where the gentleman said that he
has been cooperating
with the police. And he was interviewed twice. All that has to be done is for him to sign the witness statement that they have been calling him. So no, this was evidence that was provided by you. And again, that I continue to wonder
I do understand.
If the Chief Secretary really listens, understands, pay attention to what he says and what he does. Because again, he came out in when we heard the recording first, he said they were strategizing and it wasn't implemented. And we hear clearly that they have commenced implementation of the strategy. Now again, we see where he is claiming and trying to prove this is why the Prime Minister is colluding because he knew that the person is a state witness.
Yes.
But Chief Secretary, sir, in your statement, you said that the whistleblower is cooperating with the police. And he was interviewed twice.
He said it. Folks, we're going to take a short break. We'll pay some bills. And we're going to come back. When we get back, I want us to look just for a short while at an article that was published. And when we get back, we're going to look at it. Folks, just stay locked on, and we'll be right back.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up. 'cause this is your show.
Come one, come all. It's time to join in the Tobago Heritage Festival 2023. Homage. All are we and all are who we be. To Tobago. Indulge in the awesomeness that is embodied in the spirit of Tobago at the 36th Tobago Heritage Festival. Celebrate a rich, vibrant, hypnotic showcase of our cultural legacy. Yes, from July 21st to August 1st, 2023. Take the island tour. Sample the sumptuous variety of local indigenous delicacies. Enjoy the recreation of old-time village life. Dance to the drum. Feel the rhythm of steel pan. Experience the way of life, languages, and oral traditions. Be part of the journey to our we heritage, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and inspiring our future. Relive our unique culture. Join in the preservation of the heritage of we island of Tobago.
Morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a
So folks, we are back and we went out heated and we come back in heated. Because it is ludicrous, it's erroneous, it's atrocious, it is mind-boggling. You can't fathom what is actually taking place, and clearly the Chief Secretary is on a road to try to, and this is the question I'm asking, to make Tobagonians feel that he is above the law, that there is nothing or no entity that could challenge him or question him and his cohorts on anything that they do.
But why that surprises you, Marilyn? Because it
That
did not.
upset.
It's
upsetting me.
And it is upsetting because it did not start. It did not start with this audio gate. Because remember when we brought questions in the house about the EMA approvals, the roads,
contract employees, everything.
Yes, they seem to be above the law. So they came in the house, and when the question was asked whether or not EMA approval was required for a number of the projects that the THA was engaging in, the Chief Secretary says no, based on Section 25, they could do whatever they want. And that is what it appears to do, that because they are in office, because they are high-ranking officials of the Tobago House of Assembly, they are above the law and they could do whatever they want. And again, it comes to this audio gate. An investigation is being launched. It appears to be criminal conduct. Allow the investigation to take its course. Not because you are a member of the assembly means that you are free
to do
whatever you want, and you are not to be investigated if you are brought into disrepute.
You don't answer to anybody.
You don't answer to anybody, and that's the thing.
Yeah, but we have seen where government officials were investigated, warrants issued to search their premises, and then they were subsequently arrested. And this is MPs and ministers of government. So what makes you different? If you do questionable things, and what I'm getting a bit heated. No. What is a bit annoying is that the people that you are bringing into question and repute, you are saying that an investigation needs to be launched into them.
Yeah.
But you exonerating yourself.
Your own self.
So investigation launched into the PM, the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, the political leader, the police commissioner. the magistrate, the entire the entire TTPS, but no investigation into you.
Yeah.
How does that make sense?
You see, and that's why. That's why, as I
So
said,
why must everyone else be investigated except you?
No, and it's not just not him in it. Because he said it again last night. The minority leader asked him the question in the House, the only question
that was allowed.
That the minority leader got the opportunity to ask. Do you think that you should be the subject of an investigation or an ongoing investigation? And the Chief Secretary said no. He has already explained to the public and has exonerated himself. And as far as he's concerned, it had nothing to investigate again.
So the Chief Secretary became judge, juror, and executioner.
An executioner.
So he tried his own case in the Assembly legislature. Because that is indeed what he did. He brought evidence into the legislature to prove that other people were conspiring against him when it was your voice. If there was nothing to record, there will be no investigation. Nobody opened your mouth to have those discussions, conspiring to use taxpayers.
So let me ask you all a question, right? Because I recognize the passion. Are you all logical thinkers?
Of course we are logical thinkers.
Well, clearly we have people who operate within Tobago that are not logical thinkers, that operate within a vacuum. That operate within, not vacuum, operate within their own bubble.
Yeah. And what we are,
because if we are saying that B is the result of A, that's logical. That's how we are seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not seeing that. They are seeing, if from day one they are seeing that what they did was not wrong, then all of this spin-off. Hold on, Mr. David. We know the law says otherwise. So we are seeing it from a legal, logical standpoint. But if in these people's minds, the first thing that they did was not to break the law, then everything else coming after that makes no sense to them. It may make sense to us because we see it. We see it and the law sees it as them breaking the law. But for whatever reason it is, these people believe that they did nothing wrong. And as long as they believe they did nothing wrong, they're going to go down the rabbit hole. And what's sad about it is that they're carrying people down the rabbit hole. They're carrying an institution called the Tobago House of Assembly down the same rabbit hole with them that is constantly losing credibility in the eyes. And you know something? Somebody asked, it was Darian Marcel who asked the Prime Minister a particular question. If what is happening in the THE, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember it word for word, would cause the government to perform certain actions. The Prime Minister said, no, we're not going down that road of looking to rein in the THE. Because the problem is not the institution called the Tobago House of Assembly. It has functioned properly for 40 plus years. The problem is not the institution. The problem is the people who are at the helm of the institution right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
That are doing what they want, how they want, when they feel. And we are seeing it in everything that they put their hands to. Listen, you look at every event that this administration has placed its hands on.
Is that so proper?
Sorry.
And everything is chaos and confusion.
Yes, bacchanal. But gentlemen, if you go back, and Senator Lawrence, just coming off of what you said, if there is no wrongdoing, then you will be exonerated.
Exactly.
Yes. Additionally, if we go back again to the genesis of this thing, the audio gate, if we recall the conversations in the audio gate, and part of the propaganda to be spread is the whole issue with
the war
Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
That is the narrative that is being put.
And we recognize that as things unfold, this is what we are seeing. A narrative being built that is Trinidad versus Tobago, and it's them and us, and the government and the THA. But who is creating that kind of narrative? And is the narrative that is being created real? or it's an impersonation of what people want us to believe, a fabrication of what people want us to believe. And all that is said in the audio recording is what we are seeing unfolding as the day goes by. And I was listening to the news last night, and after the news, the Monday Night Forum came on. And I heard the opposition leader. And on this said station, I tuned in a couple weeks ago when the audio recording was fresh. And on a program on this said station, a video recording was shown about Douglas politics. And it basically spoke to the fact that the police is coming to Tobago. And this was prior to the police coming to Tobago. Yeah. And the senator was saying the police is coming to Tobago. And shortly after that...
Not the senator.
No. The senator in the Douglas politics. And they started speaking to the police coming to Tobago and what they're coming to Tobago to do, and basically condemning the actions of the police.
Before they came.
Then we heard the opposition leader, subsequent to that, on the platform talking about the same situation happening in Tobago and condemning the work of the police. I would have seen for myself last night where at length the opposition leader spoke to what is transpiring and talking about what they are doing to Farley and what they're doing to the THA and the TTPS, trying to do whatever they are doing. And you know what was instructive? The opposition leader said, when you touch one, you touch all. I don't know what that means. But the opposition leader last night in the Monday Forum said, after speaking extensively about what is transpiring in Tobago and how they are treating Farley, the TTPS, because that's how she put it. She called him Farley. She concluded that segment by saying, when you touch one, you touch all. We are in the midst of an election season. And if we look at how this current administration in Tobago is governing, if we look at how they are attempting to shape the narrative, if we look at their posture, it resembles one that wears yellow on the other side.
Same playbook, same everything. And I want the director to pull up an article that was published in the newspaper. We're not going to look at it in its entirety, but this article was published, and the author of it is one Neil Sinath Singh. And the article, just to give a bit of caption, it spoke a bit to the expectations of Farley Augustine coming into office, on his popularity and so on, but it went directly into, from very early in the tenure, Mr. Augustine seemed not to have his ducks in a row. Next paragraph, riding on the publicity and attempting to adopt the strategy used by his political leader, the chief secretary started calling news conferences to blame everyone, from captain to cook, for his deficiencies. The number one reason for him was so-called corruption by the previous assembly and the PNMs, the People's National Movement. He was adamant that all will be revealed and that jail was imminent for members of the previous administration. We, the people, still await this revelation. Let me jump forward, because this is the part that I want to, the second to last paragraph. His latest blunder is going into the sacred house called the Tobago House of Assembly and uttering statements that can only fuel conspiracy theories and bring honorable officers of public service into disrepute. Most notably, the Prime Minister, once again, while bashing the Prime Minister, while the bashing of the Prime Minister is nothing new for this gentleman, Mr. Augustine has brought in the name of the Commissioner of Police who has an impeccable record of integrity in public service. Any logical thinking citizen can conclude.
See the word there, logical?
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
That's why I waited for now to bring the article. Any logical thinking citizen can conclude that this chief secretary has deep underlying issues that need to be addressed. The citizens who had felt some sort of inspiration by this once vibrant young man on the political platform are certainly disappointed. However, and this is the part I love, as the old saying goes, for whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad.
But that, you see, and to me that word, logical thinking, because the question I always ask, if this was being said, if Hushers Think Mouth, if all these allegations were being said by a PNM chief secretary,
what would be
the outcry of Tobagonians? Of the Tobagonians who are in full support.
We have a question, and I'm going to throw it out. Either of you can respond. To what extent does the presiding officer have a responsibility to prevent the type of charade the chief secretary presented? One of our viewers is asking that question. What's her role? What is the role of the presiding officer in terms of preventing this type of charade?
Well, we have standing orders, and I walked in my boat this evening. We have standing orders in the House, and the standing order basically governs the operation of the House and the decorum that should be executed or that should be had in the House. So in terms of statements, one, the statement is required to be approved by the presiding officer. So the chief secretary should have sent the statement, and the statement should, in its entirety, and that statement should have been vetted and approved so that it is in keeping with the standing orders. Whatever audio recordings that were approved also should have been vetted to ensure that they withstand the decorum of the House and is in keeping with the standing orders. Yes? So whatever happens in the House requires the approval of the chair.
And I want to make, I was having this discussion today, and I want to make this point, that even the presiding officer is not bigger than the standing orders. The standing orders govern even the operation of the presiding officer. Nobody's bigger than the chair. The presiding officers have to understand that they are there to serve the House.
Yes, and I don't think the administration understands that what they do brings the institution into disrepute.
That's the thing.
And they bring the chair into disrepute because now we are having, because you did not abide by the standing orders.
You have challenges towards the presiding officer.
You now bring the chair into disrepute. You now bring the questions to be asked of the chair.
Yes.
And to me, you should not put the chair in that position.
Exactly.
And that's why I made the point that no one presiding officer is bigger than the chair, is bigger than the House.
And our actions, before you go on, our actions also set precedent.
That's right.
What we do now set precedent for future.
Yeah. Because you know sometimes standing orders in a particular jurisdiction, the standing orders of a particular jurisdiction may be silent on something. And to have a resolution to it, what happens is that you could look at precedents from another location, another jurisdiction, and use that precedence. Because in some instances, your standing orders may not cover everything.
Yeah.
And so when you do things like these, it is not, or I should say it this way, the presiding officer is not the be-all and end-all in the house. The presiding officer is guided by what the standing orders say.
Yeah.
Because there are even standing orders that govern the behavior and the actions of the presiding officer. So it's not to say that the presiding officer can get up and make a ruling as they feel. The rulings are guided by what the standing orders say.
Ought not to be. And I just
I should say ought not to be. Ought not to be.
So we have content of speeches, and this is under section 45. So in the section 45, it speaks to it shall be out of order to use offensive or insulting language about members.
Yep.
And we see clearly a breach of that standing order. No member shall impute improper motives of another member. Secretaries assigned shall be referred to by their title, their portfolios, and other members who are not councillors, only by their electoral districts for which they have been elected. It shall be out of order to attempt to revive any debate, a matter, or reconsider any specific question upon which the Assembly has come to a conclusion during the current session.
Right.
And 45.7 says that the name of the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago shall not be used to influence the Assembly. Right. And section 45.8 says the conduct of the President of the Republic, members of the Assembly, members of Parliament, or of judges or other persons engaged in the administration of justice shall not be raised except upon a substantive motion moved for the purpose. And in any moved amendment or debate on a motion dealing with any other subject, any reference to the conduct of any such person as aforementioned shall be out of order.
And so even on that note, if
this is the standing order,
that's right. If that particular standing order was raised, even before the standing order was raised, if the presiding officer looked at the statement, that should not have, that part, especially that part of the statement, should not have been allowed.
Yeah.
And in the statement,
because you breached the standing order.
In the statement, that part was included, the ignorant magistrate.
Yeah, it was included written.
Written.
You know what's sad though? We have grown accustomed, or we are allowing these kinds of attacks, and it is straight out of the playbook, even from the previous central government administration 2010 to 2015, where a speaker allowed a member of parliament to get up and use and the contribution towards the then opposition leader was so derogatory that to this day it still stains the image of the parliament.
Yeah.
That you allow a former member of parliament, well, the member of parliament at that time, the member of parliament for Tobago East at that time, to be allowed to deliver such a nasty and it was the attack was just derogatory towards the then opposition leader at the time. And so when you allow, and that's what we're talking about precedents, when you allow things to happen, when you give free rein for things to happen, it just snowballs.
And I'm glad that, Petal, you took the time to read the standing orders, and we're actually wrapping up now. I see the director queuing us. But I want to close with this. One of their members sought to go on Facebook as usual and pull standing order number 70 as a means of indicating that anything could have been said, because the standing order says, and this is how it begins, subject to the rules and standing orders
but these are the
of
rules
the
and standing
Assembly,
orders.
there shall be freedom of speech in the chamber of the Assembly. no civil and criminal proceedings could be
Subject
taken.
to
But
the
you have
rules.
So
subject,
you're
that's,
saying subject to the rules.
that's right.
And
So,
the rules
so
45
even
years.
though
That's
you
why I'm
have,
glad you read it.
that's right,
45
even though you have freedom of speech, because
Yeah.
you're covered on the parliamentary privilege, you
But
are
they
still
are-
governed by the
Yes.
rules in the
But it
office.
also does not give you
Subject.
to the right to.
So just say what you want, malign people, just do what you want.
Folks, we thank you for staying with us. We thank you for following. We continue our discussion, we continue the debates, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful night.